When I first watched this clip, I questioned myself whether or not I should show this in church. And I thought, that's showing a father's sacrifice. And I asked myself, was God crying when His Son died for us? When He chose to send us His only Son, and He knew that sacrifice was going to come one day. Was He shedding tears? Do we acknowledge that after Easter is over with? Or are we like the people on the train, kind of unaware of what's truly happening around us sometimes, as life just comes barreling forward like that train did? Easter Sunday, our youth led a crosswalk around the neighborhood here in Moorhead, from this church up to 8th Street, down to 7th and back around. And it gave people a chance to take up the cross and show that they're not ashamed to be called a Christian. I wonder how many of us continue to take up the cross when Easter's over with. How many of us continue to carry that cross in our hearts and in our minds? Do we carry it on the next week, the next month? Do we even take the time to stop and think about it once the Easter lilies have faded and gone? Are we unaware of the sacrifices that are being made every day around us? Do we acknowledge the heartache and the pain, the suffering? Do we even acknowledge the joys and the happiness, the wonder around us every morning that we're given a chance? I'm going to share with you a personal story of sacrifice, and I apologize if I get choked up because it's a little near and dear to me. But I remember when my mom told us that she had to have a heart transplant. And I remember how angry I felt. I said, why did you have to choose her? All she's ever done is spend her time helping other people, taking in children that weren't her own. She had up to 8 children in her house at one time, trying to help her husband manage a farm. She had a job to go to also, but she still found the time, all this time, to give to other people. And I was angry with God because there was so much going on in my life. All I could do was be angry with Him. And I said, don't you let her die. Don't you take her away from me. She's the one person I've got that I truly trust and depend on. I will not set foot in your house if you take her away. And I don't care what the cost is. And I remember the morning after my mom's heart transplant, I showed up at the University of Minnesota Hospital. My dad was a little upset with me because I was about this far from giving birth to my 3rd child. And I thought, Dad, if I go into labor, I'm in the best possible place. I'm in a hospital. And the doctor agreed. She thought it'd be great if we had a baby that day. And I listened to her talk to my dad for a while, and pretty soon I wasn't hearing anything she had to say. And I looked at my husband and said, I want to go to my mom's room. And I stood there for a while outside her room looking at her name on the door. And I had never picked the first names of my children. And my grandma had already told me that if this child's a girl, I have to name her Sarah. And her name was supposed to be Sarah Ann. But I looked at my mom's name for a while and I said, Sarah Nadine. And my mom's name is Patty Nadine. Well, it's a good thing she's a girl because she's sitting back there and that's her name. But I finally went into the room, and when you first enter an ICU room, you hear a lot of bells and whistles. You might hear the respirator going. You might hear some beeps from the machine. And I looked at my mom laying there sedated from medicine because I thought it would help her body rest. And I picked up her hand and I kissed the back of her hand and I said, I love you. You're the strongest person I know. And I've never forgotten to tell her that. Not in person, not on the phone, and now in prayer. And it occurred to me at that moment what the cost is. The cost of a human heart transplant is a human life. Simply because somebody took the time to check yes when they filled out the application for their driver's license as a donor. I got to keep my mom. And I thought, my goodness, what have I asked for? This isn't what I wanted at all. I didn't want somebody to have to die for what I want. And I left my mom, and I said, I need to find a chapel. Take me to a chapel. And I prayed for a family I don't know to this day, because they gave our family a gift that cannot be replaced. And they will never know how much that meant. And I prayed for them to have the kind of peace and comfort it would take to go where they had to in the next few days. While we were rejoicing because my mom survived surgery, they had to go to a funeral because a life was taken from them. Sacrifice is all around us every day. But when we make the journey with Him, with our Father who would give His only Son to us, that's a big choice to make. And I have to think that, yes, He was crying when His Son died too. When you continue to take up the cross, take up the verse Philippians 4, chapter 4, verse 13 with you. I can do all things through Him who strengthens me. So no matter how you choose to worship, whether it's here at Grace or outside these doors, take Him with you. Carry that cross beyond these doors. And let the Lord be the light that guides you every day. Amen.